Have you ever heard a story that made your skin crawl? A story so scary you had to sleep with the lights on? Well, this one is about a place that eats light. It's a tunnel, but not just any tunnel. This one is hidden deep in the Blackwood Forest, far from any road or town. The locals have a name for it. They call it the Tunnel Without End. They say, if you go in, you never come out. They whisper that it's a one-way trip to nowhere, or maybe somewhere much, much worse. The entrance is a perfect dark circle carved into the side of a mossy hill. It looks like a giant mouth waiting to swallow you whole. No one knows who built it or why. It doesn't appear on any map, old or new. It's just there. For as long as anyone can remember, it has been a local legend. Parents tell their kids scary stories about it to keep them from wandering too far into the woods. They say strange winds blow out of its dark opening even on the calmest days. They say you can hear faint whispers if you stand too close, like the tunnel is trying to tell you a secret. A terrible, awful secret. It's a place of pure mystery, a black hole in the middle of the green forest, promising adventure but delivering only dread. The legend says the tunnel is hungry. It doesn't just take people, it takes their hope, their light, and their memories. They say time works differently inside. A minute could be an hour, or an hour could be a lifetime. The people who live nearby don't go near it. They build their fences a little taller on the side facing the forest. They lock their doors a little tighter at night. They know that some things are best left alone. The Tunnel Without End is one of those things. It sits there silent and patient, waiting for someone curious, waiting for someone brave, or maybe just someone foolish. So, what would you do? If you found a tunnel that promised a great mystery, would you walk away? Or would your curiosity get the better of you? Would you want to be the one to solve the puzzle? To find out what lies at the end of the tunnel without end? Most people would say no, most people are smart, but some people aren't. Some people hear a warning and think it's a challenge. They see a locked door and just have to find the key. And that is where our story truly begins. With 3 teenagers who thought they were smarter than a legend. The year was 1983. The summer was hot and sticky. 3 teenagers, Mark, Jenny, and a kid everyone called Leo, decided they were bored. They were tired of the same old summer activities. They wanted an adventure. A real adventure. They had heard the stories about the Tunnel Without End their whole lives. The warnings from their parents only made it sound more exciting. So, they made a plan. They would be the ones to explore it. They would be the ones to come back with a story to tell. They brought a flashlight with extra batteries. And most importantly, they brought a brand new VHS camera to prove they did it. They set off on a Tuesday afternoon, telling their parents they were going to the lake. The woods were quiet as they walked, the trees blocking out the sun. They found the tunnel right where the stories said it would be, a perfect black circle in the hillside. It was even scarier in person. A cold draft seemed to breathe out of it, smelling of damp earth and something else, something old and forgotten. Mark, the leader, turned on the camera. He pointed it at his friends. "Say cheese," he joked, but his voice was a little shaky. Jenny forced a smile. Leo just stared into the darkness, his eyes wide. The tape starts with their nervous laughter. Mark's voice is muffled as he describes their mission. "We are about to enter the Tunnel Without End," he says, trying to sound like a brave explorer. "We're going to find out what's really inside." The flashlight beam cuts into the darkness, but it doesn't seem to go very far. It's like the shadows themselves were thick and heavy, swallowing the light. They took their first steps inside, their sneakers crunching on the gravel floor. The air grew cold instantly. Behind them, the sunny afternoon world looked very, very far away. They were walking into the mouth of the beast. They were never seen again. Not Mark, not Jenny, not Leo. Days turned into weeks. Search parties combed the Blackwood Forest, but they found nothing. It was as if the 3 teenagers had vanished from the face of the earth. Their parents were heartbroken. The town was in shock. The legend of the tunnel grew darker and more terrifying. Then, 6 months later, a hiker stumbled upon something near the tunnel's entrance, half buried in the mud. It was the VHS camera. The tape was still inside. Everyone hoped it would provide answers. But the footage on that tape only created more questions. Horrifying questions. An archivist named Arthur was given the tape. He was told to document its contents for the official police report. He sat alone in a sterile viewing room, pressed play, and watched the screen flicker to life. At first, it was exactly what he expected. Three kids, full of nervous energy, making jokes to hide their fear. The flashlight beam bounced around the tunnel walls, which were smooth and damp. Their voices echoed strangely. "Hello? Anybody home?" Leo shouted, and the echo came back sounding warped and distorted, like a monster was trying to mimic his voice. The kids laughed it off, but their laughter sounded a little weaker this time. Then things started to get weird. The happy chatter faded, replaced by long stretches of silence. All you could hear was their breathing and the crunch of their footsteps. Then another sound started. A faint rhythmic dripping. Drip, drip, drip. But there was no water on the ceiling. The sound seemed to come from everywhere at once. Jenny whispered to the camera, her face pale in the flashlight's glow. "Do you guys hear that?" Mark shushed her, but he looked scared too. The dripping sound was soon joined by a low hum, a deep vibration that seemed to shake the camera in Mark's hand. The footage gets darker here. The flashlight starts to flicker, its beam weakening. In the moments of near total darkness, Arthur leaned closer to the screen. He thought he saw shapes moving in the shadows, just at the edge of the light. They were quick, blurry things. Then for a split second, the flashlight flared brightly, and Arthur saw it. A face. It was pale and long, with two large, dark eyes and no mouth. It wasn't human. It was just there in the darkness behind Leo for a fraction of a second before it was gone. Arthur rewound the tape. He watched it again. It was definitely there, a silent, watching face. The kids on the tape never saw the face. They were too busy arguing about the flashlight. "Shake it," Jenny cried. Mark did, and the light came back, but it was weak. They were plunged into darkness more and more often. During these dark moments, the whispers started. They were faint at first, like wind rustling through leaves, but they grew louder, clearer. They weren't speaking English. It was some other language, full of sharp, clicking sounds. The kids were starting to panic now. "Let's go back," Leo pleaded, his voice cracking. But when they turned around, the entrance was gone. There was only more tunnel. Panic sets in. The tape shows the three teenagers running, their flashlight beams swinging wildly. They're running back the way they came, but the tunnel just keeps going. The walls, which were once rough stone, now look smooth and polished, almost like metal. They scream for help, but their voices are swallowed by the humming sound, which is getting louder. "It should be right here," Mark yells, pointing the camera at a blank wall. The entrance was right here, but there is nothing. Just an endless curving corridor of darkness, stretching on forever in both directions. They are trapped, utterly and completely trapped. They decide to keep moving forward, hoping to find another way out. They walk for what feels like hours. The tape shows them growing more tired, more hopeless. Their footsteps echo in the suffocating silence. The whispers have stopped, but the feeling of being watched is stronger than ever. The air is thick and cold, and their breath fogs in front of them. Jenny starts crying softly, her sobs the only sound for a long time. Leo is just staring blankly ahead, as if his mind has already left his body. Mark keeps filming, maybe because it's the only thing he can do to feel like he has some control. Then, they see it. Up ahead, in the middle of the left wall, is a door. It wasn't there before. They are sure of it. They had walked past this very spot. The door is strange. It's made of a dark, heavy wood that seems to absorb the light. There is no handle, no lock, just a single, intricate symbol carved into its center. It looks like a spiraling maze. As they get closer, they realize the door is humming with the same low frequency that has been following them. It's a choice. More unknown darkness ahead, or the mystery behind the door. They don't really have a choice at all. With a great effort, Mark pushes the door. It swings open without a sound, revealing not a room, but a staircase. A spiral staircase leading down into an even deeper darkness. The steps are not made of stone or wood. They are made of a smooth, polished material that looks just like bone. It's a horrifying, bone-white spiral descending into the earth. The air that flows up from the opening is freezing cold and smells ancient, like dust and decay. The kids hesitate, looking from the impossible staircase back to the endless tunnel. They have nowhere else to go. With the camera still rolling, they take the first step down. The spiral staircase seems to go on forever. The bone-like steps are slick and cold under their feet. The only sound is their own nervous breathing, echoing in the tight, enclosed space. The camera shows glimpses of the walls, which are covered in the same strange, maze-like symbols as the door. After what feels like an eternity of descending, they finally reach the bottom. They step into a large, circular chamber. The ceiling is so high that their flashlight beam can't reach it. In the exact center of the room, there is a single stone pedestal, and on top of that pedestal sits an old-fashioned reel of film. It looks ancient, like something from the very first days of movies. The film canister is made of rusted metal, and a long strip of celluloid film hangs from it, coiling on the floor. The chamber is unnervingly silent. The humming and whispering from the tunnel are gone. It's just them and this strange object. What is a film reel doing down here, in a secret chamber at the bottom of a bone staircase? Mark moves closer, pointing the camera at the reel. It's covered in a fine layer of dust, as if it has been sitting here, untouched, for 1,000 years. It feels like a trap. Jenny reaches out a trembling hand. "Don't touch it," Leo warns, his voice a panicked whisper. But it's too late. The moment her finger makes contact with the cold metal of the canister, something happens. The reel begins to spin. It starts slowly at first, then faster and faster, a whirring sound filling the chamber. It's spinning on its own. No projector, no power, just a strange, impossible energy. As it spins, the strip of film lifts off the floor, dancing in the air like a snake. The images on the film begin to flicker, but there is no light source to project them. They are just appearing. The chamber walls suddenly light up. The spinning reel is projecting images all around them. But these aren't normal pictures. They are twisted, nightmarish scenes. They see images of the tunnel, but it's different, with walls that seem to breathe. They see the pale, mouthless faces again, hundreds of them, their dark eyes staring. They see themselves, the three of them, but older, their faces etched with terror. Then something new appears in the chamber with them. A tall, shadowy figure, impossibly thin, unfolds itself from a corner of the room. It wasn't there a second ago. The film isn't just showing things, it's making them real. The tape becomes a chaotic nightmare. The camera shakes violently as the teenagers scream. The shadowy figure takes a step towards them, its form shifting and unsteady, like a heat haze. The projected images on the wall are changing faster and faster. They show the kids running, but they are running through places they have never been. A hospital corridor, a desolate playground, a room where the furniture is stuck to the ceiling. The camera whips around, and for a moment the chamber is gone. They are standing back in the tunnel again, but the door is gone. The pedestal is gone. The shadow is gone. It's as if the chamber never existed. They are completely lost. The tunnel is no longer a simple corridor. It twists and turns in impossible ways. They will walk for a minute and end up right back where they started. They will turn a corner and find themselves looking at a reflection of their own backs, as if the tunnel has folded in on itself. The geometry of the place is broken. The tape records things that make no sense. At one point, the camera is pointing at Jenny, but Mark's voice is heard on the tape saying, "I'm so scared." But Mark is standing right next to her, his mouth closed. The tape is recording things that aren't happening, or maybe things that are happening in another time. The tape shows them finding the entrance again. The bright, sunny daylight is pouring in. They run towards it, crying with relief, but as they get closer, the circle of light shrinks, closing like the iris of an eye until it's just a pinprick, and then it's gone. They are left in total darkness again, their hope crushed. The tunnel is playing with them. It's feeding on their fear. The footage becomes more and more fragmented. There are clips of them huddled together, whispering. There are clips of them running from unseen things. There is a terrifying moment where the camera is dropped and it records the ground as you hear their screams getting farther and farther away. The final minutes of the tape are the most disturbing. The camera is lying on its side, pointing at a wall. The only sound is that rhythmic dripping from the beginning. Drip, drip, drip. Then a shadow falls over the lens. One of the pale, mouthless faces leans into the frame. It stares directly into the camera for a full minute, its dark eyes seeming to look right through the screen, right at Arthur, the archivist watching it. The face is curious, not angry. It tilts its head as if studying the camera. Then the tape cuts to static. That's the end. Arthur sat back in his chair, his heart pounding. The story wasn't over. For him, it was just beginning. Arthur locked the tape away in a high-security vault. He labeled it as evidence and tried to forget what he saw, but he couldn't. The images were burned into his mind. The pale face, the spinning reel, the impossible tunnel. He started having nightmares. He would wake up in a cold sweat, thinking he heard that dripping sound in his apartment. A week later, he went to the vault to check on the tape. It was gone. He searched everywhere, but it had vanished. The next day, it was sitting on his desk when he arrived at work. No one knew how it got there. It was just waiting for him. He tried to destroy it. He tried to burn it, to smash it, to erase it. But nothing worked. The tape always came back, perfectly intact. It was like the story didn't want to die. Then, something even stranger happened. Late one night, televisions all across the country flickered. For just a few seconds, the regular programs were replaced by a new broadcast. It was footage from the tunnel. It showed the dark, curving walls, and the sound of faint whispers could be heard. Most people thought it was a prank or a technical glitch, but some people kept watching. They felt drawn to it. Those who paid too much attention started seeing things. They would glimpse the tunnel on their phone screens or in the reflection of a window. More people started disappearing, not in the Blackwood Forest, but from their own homes. They were people who became obsessed with the mystery, people who searched online for information about the lost teenagers of 1983, people who tried to understand the pattern. They learned too much. The tunnel wasn't just a place underground anymore. It was an idea, a story, a pattern that could spread from a tape to a TV screen to a computer. It was a virus of reality. The tunnel without end isn't made of rock and dirt. It's made of curiosity and fear. It finds you when you look for it. It latches on to those who try to solve its puzzle. It isn't a hole in the ground, it's a hole in the world. And the more you learn about it, the closer you get to its entrance. You've read this story now. You know about the tape, the faces in the door. The pattern has been shown to you. So let me ask you one last question. Reader, beware. You're in for a scare. Are you sure the tunnel is out there, in some dark forest? Or has it always been coiled silently, waiting, inside your own mind?